UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Today is Thursday, the 12th of October 2023. Welcome to Good Morning Uganda. My name is Olive Monica Najima. Here is the team that is Robert Chirabo Nyonyintono and Chantal Oliver Kaninda and Jerome Paul Sonko. We are here to serve you, to inspire you, to educate you, because that is our mandate as the national broadcaster, to bring you the top stories, to give you topical discussions, and of course, to give you entertainment. And of course, since I don't do this alone, I would like to check on my people and see how they are doing. Oh, by the way, Jerome Paul Sonko, good morning.
Good morning.
Did you see what happened in Chireka yesterday?
Just know I was really happy, or I should say, because I was lucky enough to have reached home by 2 o'clock yesterday. Because once it started raining, in most cases, once it starts raining around that same place, the flooding takes like an hour to start. But then, unlike other days, yesterday, within just 30 minutes, it was serious
River
flooding.
Chireka.
Before you even reach Chireka, from
Yes.
Chambogo, Banda, and you know, the issue with Chireka is because of the fact that the drainage systems around that place, around the Shell Chireka, around where the furniture, guys are, that is where the major problem comes from. But then there's also another issue of the same around the carbons, that is around the Chambogo Ministry of Internal Affairs, where the passports are normally, given out. That same area as well, the flooding was serious. Some people actually were swimming in those floods.
Like real actual swimming?
Yes, the border riders, simply because the water levels were increasing. And I think it is something, if you're to look at the people who have vehicles, the lucky ones are the ones whose vehicles are highly raised. But for those with vehicles that are at least lower, they weren't really lucky enough yesterday. But for the people who actually use that particular route, I think everyone who actually leaves work around 3 p.m., they weren't able to cross through until 7 p.m. in the evening, when the rain had actually, slowed down a bit. But it's not good when you look at people who actually pass there, even Forest Mall, around Forest Mall, that is Lugogo areas. So our drainage systems are really, really lacking. And the most annoying part is, I was seeing some of, the government apologists who are actually sharing images of the same flooding in New York. That happened one week back, or a few days back, whereby it also flooded. And I was wondering, are we going to start comparing ourselves to countries like the US, who we are actually not yet close to, simply because they're also experiencing the same thing? So are we going to be more comfortable because also the US streets are flooding? So that means us having flooded streets is like, it's a new normal. So I think we really need to check ourselves.
What I know for sure is that it is raining pretty much everywhere, and many regions around the world, countries around the world, are experiencing El Nino rains. So it's not only in Uganda, but of course it's still not an excuse for us to have flooding around the place. But Chantal Olive, good morning, madam. You look beautiful in pink.
Thank you. Good morning, Olive. How are you doing?
I am great. How are you?
I am very well. Looking forward to today. I mean, it's a few days to the weekend. I'm definitely looking forward to the weekend. For some reason, I don't know why, but maybe good things are about to happen.
All right.
Forget the flooding. I think by now we should be thinking of the moment the clouds start to change, find where to go and how to be safe, because this is a season we are expecting to run for quite some time, and we've been warned about the El Nino rain. So let's brace ourselves for what's coming.
That's true. That's true. That's a good message. Chirabo, good morning.
A lovely morning to you.
A lovely morning.
And our viewers, thank you so much for waking up with us this lovely Thursday. Well, Thursday is usually a throwback, not so?
Yes.
So I was just thinking to myself after looking at news and what is trending in Uganda internationally, and I thought the days when we were under a single party system, before we had the referendum to have the rebirth of political parties. Now that was called the movement system. Now, from international pressure and a few Ugandans who felt that we should welcome back parties, we had a referendum and Ugandans voted that let's go to multi-party system. And I remember there was a saying then, Bulimbuzi kunkondo yayo. I don't know why they chose to call themselves goats, those that were pushing for that. But finally,
it was a figure of speech.
But finally, we got to multi-party dispensation. And I was analyzing the quality of leaders that we've gotten because of a multi-party dispensation, where if my party agrees to vote someone or as their candidate, I'm obliged by the fact that I'm a party member to vote for that person.
Are you saying that the quality of leadership we have is not that really good compared to the one we had before the multi-party, system? Because now people are voting mainly for the party and not the individual who is capable.
I want to assure you, under the other system, we had what we called individual merit. People would come for a position, and the best with ability would be the person. Look at the people who came to see the likes of Ruben Chibirango can tell you, and people who have been around, that the flamers of our constitution, right from the Constituent Assembly and all that, because you would not look for anything else but ability to serve. And these were quality leaders. But today someone, remember, had a word called wave?
Yes.
In the just concluded elections? Wave? How would you tell me to determine the destiny of a constituency or the future of a country? A wave? And someone say, and one time someone said, even if it is a jerrycan, putting on this color, please vote. So, even if it is, I think the quality of leaders, and I look back at those days when we didn't have this funny multi-party dispensation that I believe we even didn't understand very well. We didn't have the right foundation for it. We are now in a quagmire situation.
So are you saying that the multi-party system that we have currently has done more harm than good for the country?
With no doubt. I would say it has done more harm than good, because we went into something we didn't understand properly. We are in there swimming in the middle of a sea, yet we are just beginners.
Well, those are Robert's words. I don't know if you agree with him or you disagree, but that's what we do here. We have conversations, and in most cases we would like for you to be a part of our conversations and give your opinions, because now that makes for an interactive discussion and we learn from each other. But right about now, we present you the local news stories.
And allow us begin with His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, where he said government will continue investing massively on public goods with a goal of lowering the cost of doing business. He made the remarks at the Uganda UAE Business Forum in Kampala. The forum serves as a pivotal platform for trade, investment, and cultural exchange between the two countries.
The Inspector General of Government has called upon members of the public and employees in the government MDS to report any form of poor quality service. This as the Inspectorate of Government popularizes the Ombudsman's function, which is also the Inspectorate of Government function. Betty Olive Kamya, while addressing media in Kampala, said selective administration in government agencies and frustration of citizens seeking services must stop.
And moving on, regarding matters of security and fighting crime, Police Crime Intelligence Department has arrested 3 suspects over smuggling improvised explosives into Uganda from the United Republic of Tanzania through Mitukula. Police spokesperson Fred Enanga said at least every week security intercepts explosives being smuggled through Mitukula into the country.
Uganda Broadcasting Corporation has hosted Kampala PDM SACCO's executive members as part of its continuous efforts to enhance engagement between PDM, that is a Parish Development Model Secretariat, and the PDM program beneficiaries. The Managing Director, UBC, Winston Agaba, says UBC has committed all its 11 radio stations and 2 active television stations to educate the masses on the Parish Development Model program.
And internationally, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said every Hamas member was a dead man after the first meeting of his country's emergency government. Alongside him, opposition figure Benny Gantz said it was a time for war. But US President Joe Biden said he had spoken to Mr. Netanyahu and made it clear that Israel must operate by the rules of war. The death toll in Israel has reached 1,200 and more than 1,100 people have been killed by Israeli airstrikes on Gaza. Mr. Biden said he understood the anger and frustration of the Israeli people, but urged Israel to adhere to the principles of the Geneva Conventions. He also warned Iran, which has welcomed the Hamas attack, to be careful. Earlier yesterday, Mr. Netanyahu and Mr. Gantz agreed to put aside a bitter political rivalry that had escalated into widespread protests. Mr. Gantz told Israeli citizens that the newly formed government was united and ready to wipe this thing called Hamas off the face of the earth. And away from that, with Gaza now under complete Israeli blockade and after 5 days of bombardment, the humanitarian situation is becoming increasingly desperate. Main lines of electricity were cut off after the territory's only power station ran out of fuel. Hospitals, overwhelmed with thousands of casualties, they say they are running out of medicine as well. The United Nations says half a million Gazans have not had their food rations since Saturday. The UN has called for a humanitarian corridor to be set up. An Egyptian official told a news agency that the government in Cairo was in discussions with all parties to try and allow aid into Gaza through Egypt, even if only for a few hours. Meanwhile, there is an increased expectation that Israel will soon step up to its operation with a ground offensive. An Israeli spokesperson said forces, including 300,000 reservists, were close to the border getting ready for their mission to make sure that at the end of this war, Hamas no longer has any military capabilities. With the number of people killed by Hamas at the weekend now known to be more than 1,200, that mission will have widespread Israeli public support. Moving on, there is no evidence that the diploma Nigeria's President Bola Ahmed Tinubu submitted to the country's electoral commission was forged. This is according to BBC's Global Disinformation team. And allegations that President Tinubu's certificates were faked went viral on social media following the release by Chicago State University of his academic records last week. We have looked at some of the most widely circulated claims. The release of the president's academic documents is the culmination of a judicial case filed in August by one of his main rivals in February's presidential election. Atiku Abubakar of the People's Democratic Party, Mr. Abubakar was hoping to have the victor disqualified after accusing him of falsifying the CSU Diploma Bachelor of Science in Business Administration awarded in 1979 that he submitted to the Electoral Authority. Now, speaking matters climate, a study by the Czech Academy of Sciences and Cambridge University found the state of European hops, an important ingredient in beer, being impacted by drier climates in growing areas. And hops are a derivative of the humus plant that provide a bitter quality to the mash of water, barley and yeast that makes beer. Scientists believe a reduction in such crops is likely due to global warming. Researchers compared the average yield of aroma hops between 1995 and 2018 to that of a 23-year-old ending in 1994. They found a 20% decline in key hop growing areas, according to the BBC. The study also found the distinct qualities of the hops observed were lessened by increasingly hot temperatures. Farmers are advised to modify growing techniques to protect the quality and quantity of their yields. Failure to adopt will jeopardize the profitability of hop growing in some areas, study co-author Martin Mosney wrote of researchers' findings. The consequence will be lower production and a higher price for brewers. That is it for the climate news and also what is happening on the international scene.
Thank you so much, Chantal, for that report. Now, Jerome Paul Sonko takes us through today's press review.
And in the front pages of the New Vision and the Daily Monitor, the New Vision highlights landlords want tax on rent reduced. Property owners call for sensitization on tax compliance. More of that report is within the New Vision today. Furthermore, on the day of the girl child, more of the celebrations in relation to empowering girl children in the country. Then President Museveni was United Arab Emirates investors, the pictorial of the president at the Uganda UAE forum. You can read more of the same with the New Vision. Now, furthermore, the land conflict raw escalates over access road in Muyenga. You can read more about the same with the New Vision today. Then in the other series, Kauma's Sweet Sour Childhood, you can read more of the same. As in the international part, Gaza War, what we know so far. The New Vision is giving you more details relating to that particular conflict. The Daily Monitor now, local council 1 and 2 elections take shape. Daily Monitor highlights why Entebbe school turned classrooms into goat shelter. Which school is that? You can read more with the Daily Monitor. Then cyber security tops mid-sized companies conversation. You can read more of the same in the Daily Monitor. Ask the mechanic. Experts answer your car questions. As in the other news, Rwenzururu Kingdom to turn palace bombed to ruins in 2016 into a museum. Now, corruption, Nakalema says red tape frustrating investors. You can read more of the same with the Daily Monitor. Now, in the DM Today relationships, there is a love built on mutual understanding. You can read more of the same. That is it for our press review, this particular hour of the show. Later on, we shall be looking at the other headlines across the region.
Thank you so much, Jerome Paul. And now this is the moment where we leave you with a throwback song, because today is Thursday and we throw back. Earlier on, Chirabo threw back to the time when we did not have malt parties, and today we have malt parties. And he says that he believes that today the quality of leaders we have as compared to the quality of leaders we had back in the day is totally different, and it is much worse. Because if I may quote him, he says that back in the day someone was elected to parliament on merit, not because of the party that they represent or that the party they are under. So those shenanigans of if it is a jerrycan and it is in this color, we will vote for it, that never used to happen, right? That's what you said, Robert.
You would reason, you not just to be like... Because there's this belief that a political party will always have the best candidate. But unfortunately, time has proven that is wrong. But people are bribing, what they call the Akamufu, the green, people are bribing. People are using all connections, all ways and they become the party flag bearers. There's so much, so political parties have failed to get the best to contest for these positions.
But wouldn't you say, what would you say to the person who says that a political party helps, you know, to create order and organization, so that we know if an MP does this, we know where to find them, we know who is ahead of them. If we need someone to talk to their people, for instance, like right now, if it is NUP, you'd go to Matthias Mpuga. That's where you start. But if everyone is on their own,
that is what it should have been. Let me give you an example.
Okay, Chantal says that's the idea.
That is what it should be, but
the
it's not what
reality
it
of
is.
what is prevailing right now is totally different. And yeah, I do agree with you. We're supposed to, that's supposed to be an address. It's supposed to be a way of organizing ourselves. Unfortunately, we are organized but disorganized.
For example, an MP belonging to FDC right now, an MP belonging to a Democratic Party who is not aligned to Norbert Mao, where do they go? You get it. We've seen that even in NUP, we have the likes of Bashir Kazibu, where even the party principal comes out and confesses. This one for him, Alibibie. So there's a problem.
There is a problem.
We need a national day to pray for political parties in this country.
Oh, wow. Anyway, this is the moment where we leave you with a throwback song, and then when we come back, we will still be talking about politics, because members of parliament from the opposition the other day walked out of a plenary session. How is that going? Did they attend plenary yesterday? That and more is what we will be discussing when we come back. But for now, we'll leave you with Two-Face Idibia with the African Queen.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
October 2023. Welcome to Good Morning Uganda. My name is Olive Monica Najima. Here is the team that is Robert Chirabo Nyonyintono and Chantal Oliver Kaninda and Jerome Paul Sonko. We are here to serve you, to inspire you, to educate you, because that is our mandate. As the national broadcaster, to bring you the top stories, to give you topical discussions, and of course to give you entertainment. And of course, since I don't do this alone, I would like to check on my people and see how they are doing. Oh, by the way, Jerome Paul song. Good morning.
Good morning.
Did you see what
Monica.
happened in Chireka yesterday?
Just know I was really happy, or I should say, because I was lucky enough to have reached home by 2 o'clock yesterday. Because once it started raining, in most cases, once it starts raining around that same place, the flooding takes like an hour to start. But then, unlike other days, yesterday, within just 30 minutes, it was
We had
serious
River
flooding.
Chireka.
Before you even reach Chireka, from
Yes.
Chambogo, Banda, and you know, the issue with Chireka is because of the fact that the drainage systems around that place, around the Shell Chireka, around where the furniture, you know, guys are, that is where the major problem comes from. But then there's also another issue of the same around the carbons. That is around the Chambogo Ministry of Internal Affairs, where the passports are normally, you know, given out. That same area as well, the flooding was serious. Some people actually were swimming in those floods.
Like
the
real actual swimming.
Yes, the border riders, simply because the water levels were increasing. And I think it is something, if you're to look at the people who have vehicles, the lucky ones are the ones whose vehicles are highly raised. But for those with vehicles that are at least lower, they weren't really lucky enough yesterday. But for the people who actually use that particular route, I think everyone who actually leaves work around 3 p.m., they weren't able to cross through until 7 p.m. in the evening, when the rain had actually, you know, slowed down a bit. But it's not good when you look at people who actually pass there, even Forest Mall, around Forest Mall, that is Logogo areas. So our drainage systems are really, really lacking. And the most annoying part is, I was seeing some of, the government apologists who are actually sharing images of the same flooding in New York. That happened I think a few days, 1 week back, or a few days back, whereby it also flooded. And I was wondering, are we going to start comparing ourselves to countries like the US, who we are actually not yet close to, simply because they're also experiencing the same thing? So are we going to be more comfortable because also the US streets are flooding? So that means us having flooded streets is like, it's a new normal. So I think we really need to check ourselves.
What I know for sure is that it is raining pretty much everywhere, and many regions around the world, countries around the world, are experiencing El Nino rains. So it's not only in Uganda, but of course it's still not an excuse for us to have flooding around the place. But Chantal, Olive, good morning, madam. You look beautiful in pink.
Thank you. Good morning, Olive. How are you doing?
I am great. How are you?
I am very well. Looking forward to today. I mean, it's a few days to the weekend. I'm definitely looking forward to the weekend. For some reason, I don't know why, but maybe good things are about to happen.
All right.
Forget the flooding. I think by now we should be thinking of the moment the clouds start to change, find where to go and how to be safe, because this is a season we are expecting to run for quite some time, and we've been warned about the El Nino rain. So let's brace ourselves for what's coming.
That's true. That's true. That's a good message. Chirabo, good morning.
A lovely morning to you.
A lovely morning.
And our viewers, thank you so much for waking up with us this lovely Thursday. Well, Thursday is usually a throwback, not so?
Yes.
So I was just thinking to myself, after looking at news and what is trending in Uganda internationally, and I thought the days when we were under a single party system, before we had the referendum to have the rebirth of political parties. Now that was called the movement system. Now, from international pressure and a few Ugandans who felt that we should welcome back parties, we had a referendum and Ugandans voted that let's go to multi-party system. And I remember there was a saying then, Bulimbuzi kunkondo yayo. I don't know why they chose to call themselves goats, those that were pushing for that. But finally,
it's a figure of speech.
But finally, we got to multi-party dispensation. And I was analyzing the quality of leaders that we've gotten because of a multi-party dispensation, where if my party agrees to vote someone or as their candidate, I'm obliged by the fact that I'm a party member to vote for that person.
Are you saying that the quality of leadership we have is not that really good compared to the one we had before the multi-party, system? Because now people are voting mainly for the party and not the individual who is capable.
I want to assure you, under the other system, we had what we called individual merit. People would come for a position, and the best with ability would be the person. Look at the people who came to see the likes of Ruben Chibirango can tell you, and people who have been around, that the flamers of our constitution, right from the Constituent Assembly and all that, because you would not look for anything else but ability to serve. And these were quality leaders. But today someone, remember, had a word called wave?
Yes.
In the just concluded elections? Wave? How would you tell me to determine the destiny of a constituency or the future of a country? A wave, and someone say, and one time someone said, even if it is a jerrycan, putting on this color, please vote. So, even if it is, I think the quality of leaders, and I look back at those days when we didn't have this funny multi-party dispensation that I believe we even didn't understand very well. We didn't have the right foundation for it. We are now in a quagmire situation.
So are you saying that the multi-party system that we have currently has done more harm than good for the country?
With no doubt. I would say it has done more harm than good, because we went into something we didn't understand properly. We are in there swimming in the middle of a sea, yet we are just beginners.
Well, those are Robert's words. I don't know if you agree with him or you disagree, but that's what we do here. We have conversations, and in most cases, we would like for you to be a part of our conversations and give your opinions, because now that makes for an interactive discussion and we learn from each other. But right about now, we present you the local news stories.
And allow us begin with His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, where he said government will continue investing massively on public goods with a goal of lowering the cost of doing business. He made the remarks at the Uganda UAE Business Forum in Kampala. The forum serves as a pivotal platform for trade, investment, and cultural exchange between the two countries.
The Inspector General of Government has called upon members of the public and employees in the government MDS to report any form of poor quality service. This as the Inspectorate of Government popularizes the Ombudsman's function, which is also the Inspectorate of Government function. Betty Olive Kamya, while addressing media in Kampala, said selective administration in government agencies and frustration of citizens seeking services must stop.
And moving on, regarding matters of security and fighting crime, Police Crime Intelligence Department has arrested 3 suspects over smuggling improvised explosives into Uganda from the United Republic of Tanzania through Mitukula. Police spokesperson Fred Enanga said at least every week security intercepts explosives being smuggled through Mitukula into the country.
Uganda Broadcasting Corporation has hosted Kampala PDM SACCO's executive members as part of its continuous efforts to enhance engagement between PDM, that is a Parish Development Model Secretariat, and the PDM program beneficiaries. The Managing Director, UBC, Winston Agaba, says UBC has committed all its 11 radio stations and 2 active television stations to educate the masses on the Parish Development Model program.
And internationally, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said every Hamas member was a dead man after the first meeting of his country's emergency government. Alongside him, opposition figure Benny Gantz said it was a time for war. But US President Joe Biden said he had spoken to Mr. Netanyahu and made it clear that Israel must operate by the rules of war. The death toll in Israel has reached 1,200 and more than 1,100 people have been killed by Israeli airstrikes on Gaza. Mr. Biden said he understood the anger and frustration of the Israeli people, but urged Israel to adhere to the principles of the Geneva Conventions. He also warned Iran, which has welcomed the Hamas attack, to be careful. Earlier yesterday, Mr. Netanyahu and Mr. Gantz agreed to put aside a bitter political rivalry that had escalated into widespread protests. Mr. Gantz told Israeli citizens that the newly formed government was united and ready to wipe this thing called Hamas off the face of the earth. And away from that, with Gaza now under complete Israeli blockade and after 5 days of bombardment, the humanitarian situation is becoming increasingly desperate. Main lines of electricity were cut off after the territory's only power station ran out of fuel. Hospitals, overwhelmed with thousands of casualties, they say they are running out of medicine as well. The United Nations says half a million Gazans have not had their food rations since Saturday. The UN has called for a humanitarian corridor to be set up. An Egyptian official told a news agency that the government in Cairo was in discussions with all parties to try and allow aid into Gaza through Egypt, even if only for a few hours. Meanwhile, there is an increased expectation that Israel will soon step up to its operation with a ground offensive. An Israeli spokesperson said forces, including 300,000 reservists, were close to the border getting ready for their mission to make sure that at the end of this war, Hamas no longer has any military capabilities. With the number of people killed by Hamas at the weekend now known to be more than 1,200, that mission will have widespread Israeli public support. Moving on, there is no evidence that the diploma Nigeria's President Bola Ahmed Tinubu submitted to the country's electoral commission was forged. This is according to BBC's Global Disinformation team. Allegations that
is to inform the speaker, the leader of opposition's office to have a conversation with the speaker before this whole debacle happened.
The ideal that we know, usually what happens is it's during a debate in Parliament that we do not agree and then we walk out. Not coming to Parliament when we know, let's get there and walk out. You get it? No, that's where the difference is. The difference is that they knew they were going to walk out because of the prevailing circumstances. But usually what happens is we go to Parliament, we have issues to debate, and when we don't seem to agree in protest, they get up, no, this is not acceptable, and get out. But in this case, they knew they were going to do this.
So let's look at the rules of procedure. How is Parliament supposed to carry out when it comes to things like this?
Well, in this case, the first thing would be going back down to why are these members of Parliament protesting? And if I may put this out, I don't think the reason for their protest should even have reached Parliament. Unless if it was a point of discussion, especially for matters of security, maybe it was a matter of a security alert, and maybe Parliament or government is actually not doing anything about it, probably. But if you are storming out of Parliament because members of your party have been detained, some of whom are not members of Parliament, I do not think, I don't think it's actually supposed to be brought to Parliament. Maybe because there is some who are there, it encompasses all of them. But in this case, it should have been a matter presented to the Speaker of Parliament. After being presented, then if you don't get solutions or ways out, maybe that's when you present it again and then figure out if you should walk out or not. But the question here would be, was the matter given importance by the speaker or not?
No, it was, because he emphasized, he actually reminded them before they stormed out, because he does know he doesn't have the power to stop them from leaving if anyone decides to stand up and leave. So his tactic to calm the situation was to plead with them to stay as they wait for a statement from the government officials or forces as to why they were carrying out these arrests, especially on the opposition members of Parliament, because all the opposition leaders, because at this time round he did not want to have the outcome or a violent outcome of the same, because you do realize that such situation, you don't know after storming Parliament or after storming out of Parliament what is their next move. So if you're trying to calm the situation, as the Deputy Speaker of Parliament did, was really to calm them down as we wait for a government statement as to why these members of Parliament or were arrested, or for example, that is Honorable Joel Senyonyi, and as well as Lewis Rubogoya, who is also part of the NUP party. So it's more like he was waiting for a government statement, then present it to the members of the opposition. But I think the members of opposition were not ready.
But let me ask you a question. How long should it take for a statement to be provided. I'm assuming that before these arrests are conducted, there is prior information that is leading, or there is a reason that is leading to these arrests. So why wasn't the statement provided in the first place? If we are talking about procedure here, why wasn't the statement provided in the first few, when were they arrested?
Monday.
Today
morning.
is today is Thursday, and by yesterday the statement was not yet out. What does that imply? You realize that much as at some point opposition seems to sometimes take things a little bit overboard. In this case, they have a reason too. Think about it like this. This person is arrested. No reason whatsoever is fronted or given. No statement has been brought forward. What do you expect this person to say? And please do note, there's been a precedent that has been set of these arrests happening before. And these people have, I would think they're being paranoid for a genuine reason.
So anyway, Butambala Member of Parliament, that is Muhammad Muwanga Chivumbi, he said that we are expected to come here and discuss matters with decorum, perhaps debating atrocities committed by the police forces. And of course, what he was trying to say is that how do we come to Parliament to discuss atrocities by security forces, yet our own are in detention? So in his way, he was trying to justify the walking out of plenary. But now let's take it back to the voters. We understand that, yes, a few members of parliament had been arrested, and in solidarity, their friends, their colleagues did what they saw fit, walk out of parliament. Actually, before we get to the voters, members of parliament from the opposition have stormed out of parliament before, okay?
Yes.
Did this stop security agencies from arresting their peers where there is need?
No, this did not stop, because it stretches back 2021 that we saw some members of parliament, opposition members, storming out. I think even in 2020 we saw something like that happen as well. So history has it that storming out is it happens, but that doesn't stop the police agents or the security agencies from arresting their peers.
So in a nutshell, members of the opposition members of parliament have to look for another way to deal with the atrocities. Yes.
No, that one is also a way, because it is
but
more of a
it's not
statement.
yielding positive results.
I'm still
has
thinking,
it stopped
I've not
their
seen
peers
any
from being
move by them
arrested?
that has yielded as much results anyway. But when you look at the opposition, I think it was just a statement that they wanted to, put out to show their grievances, to parliament and, to the leadership.
But isn't it foolhardy to do the same thing, expecting the same results, even if you know
over
that?
and over, I mean, in a span of a number of years.
Because at the end of it all, it goes back to even the voters starting to realize that maybe you're no longer doing what took you in parliament.
And that's where that's the next point I'm coming to. So members of parliament, they have gone to parliament. The voters voted them to represent their views, to represent their grievances, to ensure that their constituencies are, getting from point A to point B. But we have also experienced that many members of parliament get there, and whatever they're discussing in most cases has nothing to do with the people who put them in that space to begin with. So how does this translate to the voters?
Well, many of the members of parliament, like you've mentioned, at times have discussions that do not relate to the conditions under which their constituents are facing, and this has actually undermined their positions in parliament, because when you look at some of the members of parliament per se who are coming in from the opposition, some of the people they represent don't even know what they are doing in parliament. So in most cases they get to see them active in such riots and such protests. So for a person like a layman Ugandan who is deep in the village or deep in a constituency, not only even one deep in the constituency, one who's in Kampala here, I voted for change of how things are done, and I expected my member of parliament to put my my grievances as priority because we expect these 5 years of the term to address some of these key issues. But then you're not seeing them actively putting that on board, but only putting, only engaging in these particular protests, riots of all of that. And I'm not ruling out the idea that it's okay to stand with their fellow colleagues, because one of the biggest issues that the opposition has been facing in Uganda is the fact that they are divided. And when you look at them standing together, you will definitely see that maybe now this time around they have a common cause. But looking back at to a voter, there are some voters who really don't want to hear of stories that my member of parliament was arrested yesterday, because you will ask, why was he arrested? And then you'll hear of scenarios that he was arrested because the president of his party was detained, or one of the other members of parties or members of the party was detained on this and this. But again, we also have to go back to that Independence Day situation. When you look at how the situations happened, I want to believe we do have a president. We have one president currently.
Yes.
In the
Yes,
country.
yes.
However much we have stories of what is
People
going
claiming
online,
and-
claiming that we have another president.
No, as
ruling.
far as the constitution
is concerned,
yes,
we do have one president.
Yes.
And that one president is the one who actually sworn in as the leader. And currently on independence, we do expect the leader of government, or we do expect the president of the nation to address. Then why does the opposition leader have to address the nation as though he is the president?
Was he addressing, was he planning to address the nation or to address his supporters?
According to the police officers, it was one that was said, because the opposition president believes he is the rightful president to have been in power. I don't want to go deep into
I like
that.
the fact that you're using opposition, because that's what they do. That's opposition.
Opposition.
Yes.
So his address was not necessarily going to only his voters. It was going to the nation, because he does believe he is the rightful president.
But you see, okay,
regardless.
the rightful president, that is wrong, because we know we have a president who was sworn in, and the constitution dictates
Yes.
that a country, Uganda, as a republic, can only have one president at a
Yes.
time for 5 years. We go back to the polls, we choose another leader. If it is still the same person, he comes back.
Yes.
That we know. But also we know that in Uganda we have freedom of speech. At least that is what is said.
True.
So shouldn't an opposition leader have a right to address his supporters without interruption by security agencies?
The security agencies stopped the address of a one Robert Chagulanyi Center move.
Yes.
That is at the Kamocha headquarters, simply because they got to realize it is Independence Day, and they would as well be some commotion caused by the opposition. And believe it or not, we all know how the opposition operates when it comes to such scenarios. It is all about creating that chaos, because as the opposition you're supposed to oppose everything government does. So we have a president of the country who is addressing the masses in Kitgum on that day, but then also the opposition leader who is in the central region at that time, also planning to address.
So what you're saying is that the timing was wrong. He
was
has the
wrong
right
for,
to speak.
he has the right,
but the
to
timing.
speak,
But the timing.
the timing. Because why didn't he put it on, for example, say Sunday, the 8th, and then putting it up on 9th of Independence? So when you look at what the police forces were actually, coming up with, not an official statement though, but why they were actually going out there is because they were trying to put an end to the commotion. But then, again, one would still say the kind of force they used wasn't really that necessary.
And we will get
for that.
we will get to that. But for the meantime, I would like for you to join this conversation. Share your views on the opposition's decision to walk out of the plenary session on Tuesday, contesting the arrest and detention of their peers. We would like to hear from you, because your take matters to us. You can reach us on WhatsApp number 0709602592, and on the X app the hashtag is UBCGMU. And again, we are asking you to share your views on the opposition's on the move by the opposition members of parliament to walk out of an ongoing plenary session contesting the arrest and alleged torture and detention of their peers. We'd like to hear from you. Now, coming back to Sonko, and I would like to also engage you, Chantal. Okay, we understand that police says this was a preventive arrest. Okay? And one would wonder, at what when you say preventive arrest, what do you mean? And isn't it being used conveniently by security agencies to disrupt the operations and gatherings of
the
opposition?
I think preventive arrest is the right word, like you said, and they are right in their own way as well, you know. But then, you know, my concern here was how the arrests were made.
Okay, there is the
I think
issue
we've
of
been
how,
able to see some of the
footage.
The footage of what was happening, the kind of armory at display while going in there. You know, all those vehicles of police
it's like
that were actually
you're going
heading,
to arrest terrorists.
Exactly. So that
These people
also
are
creates
unarmed.
chaos around the neighborhood in Kamocha, because there were actually people who are out. You know, imagine someone who lives in that neighborhood at that moment. You start feeling scared. I believe there are actually people who are no longer interested in even staying around there, because they know in case there's any
chaos.
At any one moment, you know, tear gas is coming through. So the preventive arrest was obviously expected, because, like I've mentioned, opposition leaders.
I like that you said was obviously expected. Was it?
It was.
Chantal?
It was, because why am I saying it was? We all know how the opposition in Uganda works.
Oh, why
and I don't
we
want us
say
to
we
even
all know
rule,
how security agencies operate?
Both ends. We both know how the opposition works, and we both know how the the forces
Security
work, or security agencies work, more so the police. So why I said it was obvious, we expected the police to intervene, because police had already got information that the opposition or the National Unity Platform is going to set up an address at
on
their headquarters on Independence Day. And the catchword there is independence. That is where you get to realize that there is a lot of chaos coming in from both ends. Not only the security personnel or agencies, but also the opposition leaders. Why are you setting up that particular address on a specific day like the Independence?
You are using the word that has the answer in it. Opposition.
Opposition.
Exactly. So, how, you know, whether we like it or not, opposition comes with a bit of defiance. Opposition comes with some, comes with competition. So definitely, this person who is actually calling himself the president is going to get up and go ahead and plan something like that. So it was actually expected. If something like that hadn't been planned, I would be wondering what is happening in the background. However, the truth is that was a wrong move. You cannot set your own address, especially knowing that you are an opposition leader on the day of independence, when we know that we have an address by the president of the country happening the very same day. We have celebrations happening the very same day. Now, that one is either you should have communicated, which was not communicated, by the way, because if it had been communicated, there would be reports that it was either blocked or not. Unfortunately, it was not
the opposition
communicated.
also knows that if they communicate that they're going to have an address, it wasn't going to be accepted. So
but you see, you are under a government
way.
that has rule of law.
Yes.
Whether you want it or not, shouldn't you be in position to still, because how are you going to say that you want to lead a country, yet you're the first person to not follow the laws in the country?
Though the other question would be, was it written anywhere that where we have Independence Day celebrations, no other person is supposed to put a gathering of the same, or a gathering on that particular day? Because if it wasn't put forward in a way, you will stand at a point and realize that they don't have any reason stopping them from having an address.
And
on-
according
on
to Chagulanyi
Independence Day.
Sentamo, he says they were not even planning to like gather many people because
Because they are
police
party.
would say that we did not give you the permission to gather in large numbers.
They didn't rally people.
They didn't rally people to converge. He says we just wanted to address the nation. So one would wonder if he was going to address the nation from their offices, how bad could that go?
You know, I love that the nation part. Now, once you bring in, I wanted to address the nation on Independence Day as the leader of opposition, and it brings in more questions there.
Yes.
He's
It's
sitting
more
in
like,
his
you
place
know,
as opposition.
as opposition,
Yes.
but you want
As
to
a
address.
party president.
But you want to address the nation. Anyways, like you've mentioned, at times the opposition members of parliament, who also, not only that, or the leaders of opposition in our country, however much they want to, you know, get into power, but also there is that element of you have to respect the laws governing the, you also have to put some respect to who is leading at the time, because imagine in situations either way, if the opposition comes in, the current government will as well join the opposition now, so that means they will if they also start doing the same. If I don't want to go into that matrix anyway, but for now I want to believe as a Sonko Jorampo who, you know, went out to vote in 2021 per se as a voter, the opposition, there are lots of other things that Ugandans expect the opposition members of parliament to be engaging in.
Things like?
Today, there are quite many. Let me just break down for you now. With the current situation that is going on, we expect discussions of climate change pretty much. We expect conversations rotating around the state of the roads. I want to believe, I don't want to rule out how they've been so vocal about that, by the way, because they have really been. And I also expect them to talk about the police brutality, which they are doing. But on such days of independence, as a country, we were looking back at 61 years of independence. And the biggest, you know, the majority of the opposition, or I would say the entire opposition, were looking at 61 years of Uganda's underachievements. I don't know if we noticed that.
Yes, we did.
Not at any moment did we see an opposition, you know, leader or member of parliament mentioning about any success the country has achieved.
That is
And,
just opposition being
you know,
opposition.
But,
I know it's
Chantal,
being
that's
opposition,
where
but,
I would like
you know,
to ask Chantal a question. When you said that is opposition being opposition,
For how
are
long
we
are we
saying
going to
that
have this?
opposition's
Yes.
mandate is to be against everything?
No, she's right when she says opposition being opposition, because they have to oppose.
Exactly.
In most
They're
cases.
trying to
I
front
understand, yes.
the reasons as to why they should
need
be
to
put
be-
in power. That's politics.
No, I get that is politics, but shouldn't there be a point where
You at
people
least have to acknowledge-
recognize and
Exactly.
acknowledge achievements, and then you go back to the negatives?
Because some of
this
them
is
were
what
actually also in the government before they actually turned to the opposition.
Yes.
So should we say they left the
they
government
failed
because,
when they were still
you know,
with the government.
How then will they be able to push for the same? Because on such a day, however much we look at the underachievements of, you know, the 9 presidents that have been there, or the 9 governments that we've had since independence, we still had achievements as well. We still have achievements that we look at and you know, and be proud of. Because if at all they are all underachievements, then there is no way you would actually be given room to always bash out to the government, however much you have.
That in
and
itself
insult
is
you
an
know,
achievement,
you know.
because we have previous governments where you would not do that. But of course, like we said, what brought all this to the fore was arrest, and they will claim, oh, when we speak our minds, we are going to get arrested.
Yes.
So in some cases this has happened where they want to converge, and sometimes the other question would be whenever the opposition members of parliament and even their supporters are arrested, is it really because they are speaking against the government, or is it because they are going against the rules that have been set by security agencies or the government itself?
The worry is, though, in most cases it's speaking against the government. And at times they may actually be speaking about the reality. And then some arrests, you will realize they're being, stopped from being vocal about something that needs to be changed. And that is where the worry is. And in most cases, that is why most of the opposition leaders feel like, however much is freedom of expression and freedom of speech and everything, at times their freedom is not granted passage to be executed.
So now that we know that walking out of parliament, plenary sessions and whatnot has not yielded any positive results, it has not stopped security agencies from arresting opposition members of parliament or even their supporters, what can the opposition member, in what ways should the opposition express its grievances to start with?
When you listen to what the deputy speaker said yesterday, he said, "Listen, you've done wrong to ambush me." The day they walked out, you've done wrong to ambush me with the walkout, because you were supposed to come with the leader of opposition, have the discussion without first bringing it to parliament. Then after that, you can decide whether you want to walk out or not. But this is an ambush, and it was not supposed to be done. You get it? So in the first place, they should have followed such a procedure that was supposed to enable them express themselves better. But if you're to trace back you realize that yes, there are some that did follow the procedure before. There are some that warned before. There are some that walked out during the sessions where they were having the discussions that that were related to their walkout, but it still did not achieve anything. And maybe this time they go back to the drawing board and figure out how best, because walking out is a protest, figure out how best they can protest.
Also,
they shouldn't change tactics as long as they're non-violent, because they are doing what the opposition, like you've mentioned, they're doing the opposition. It's how the opposition has to operate.
But like
really.
I said
because
earlier,
the dialogues have been there, most of them have failed.
But like I said earlier, it is foolhardy to keep doing the same thing,
following the same script,
following the same script and principles, expecting different results. It is foolhardy. But also, we have the inter-party organization for dialogue. Okay, and we know that political parties are IPOD. We know that political parties are supposed to be under this. This is where they're supposed to come together and talk about issues that are aggrieving different parties and even forging a way forward. But we also know that as the major party, opposition party in the country, NUP shunned IPOD. Okay, so they are doing things on their own. They do not sit on a round table with fellow opposition parties, with fellow parties, because IPOD has the NRM in it, it has Democratic Party in it, it has GEMA in it, it has all these other parties, but they shunned it.
Well, I would, I may not want to go back to the reasons as to why, the reasons that were cited by the parties that shunned, because the three major parties that shunned were FDC, NUP, and ANT. They have their reasons that they put forward for shunning the IPOD. And the question also would be, was the IPOD achieving the results of its mandate?
Is, because it's still here.
Government. Okay, is IPOD achieving the mandate for which it was put in place?
But
because if it were, you wouldn't be having three opposition parties
shunning it.
But and the reasons put forward, honestly, when you go back and get the reports and read through, you'll realize that the reasons that were put forward at that point were actually genuine reasons and valid reasons.
Okay, that being said, the government releases money to the IPOD, and the biggest party takes the lion's share and the next takes, okay? We know that NUP receives this money. So if you're not going to be part of a given entity, why are you taking the funds?
Politics. Politics.
That's a very lovely question.
It's politics.
It is really politics, but I will tell you, it's rather hypocritical when you look at it. Double standards. When you look at it.
I'll take the money,
but
I will not be part
so
of it.
So it's like, I don't love the conversations that are in there, but there is a specific part of the conversation that I enjoy. So I will not come and
I don't
let's
like
say,
cooking, but
I don't
I
like
like
cooking,
eating.
but I love eating. Or I do not want to contribute to your wedding, but I
am showing
really,
up.
I'm showing up and I have to make sure I eat everything, prepared. So it's the same situation that happens. Like you said, that why then are you accepting the money? Because the reason as to why they don't actually show up is because they, most of these parties say that the discussions there end up showing that the ruling party is again
Still dominating.
To them, they do not want to be under the ruling party. But again, the ruling party is giving you that money and you're picking it.
It's like what someone said before I go into the comments, that when the opposition loses a case in court, then there is no justice in this country. But when they, when the court rules in their favor, for instance, recently when Zake won his case about,
Then
having
law prevailing.
then the law prevailed. So make it
So
make
it's
sense.
the opposition being the
so
opposition.
we
like
have
Chantal
a
has
few
mentioned.
views coming in, coming through, and the first one is from Cricket Derek Gagamel, and he says, "Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is not the first time opposition members are walking out of Parliament, but if I may ask, the many times they have boycotted, have they received solutions? Walking out is not a remedy to anything. Our opposition just mastered the game of public sympathy, and they do it even where there is no where it is not applicable. The same people shunned platforms like Inter-Party Organization for Dialogue, which advocates for all parties to solve problems and challenges and find a way of working together for the betterment of the country as a whole. Opposition parties like NUP and FDC rejected iPod because they don't want to sit with enemies, yet they sit with the same, yet they sit, okay. Let opposition stop that kiddish and chaotic politics if they really want some of us to take them seriously. Lastly, government is also challenged to do things legally, but sometimes they are also driven by political desires and go astray." I like that he's balanced. He sees both sides of the, both ends of the stick. And Kesman says, "Police was right and its action was legal. NUP members of parliament don't know their intentions to be in parliament. NUP members of parliament, their work is to cause fighting and to be abusive." And he said, "Uganda police keep up." And this person says, "On the issue of preventive arrest, it is 100% acceptable. I'm talking as a Muslim. In Islamic law, it's allowed to avoid illegal actions." And this one says, "It's not a right decision of walking away. Instead of getting a way forward, let them get another alternative." And voter in Karamoja, please use your actual name, says, "It is not logical for opposition legislators to be storming out of parliament, but they should debate their issues in the plenary. Protesting out is a sign of defeat and leaving issues unresolved." And this one is Obed from Kakobambara. He says, "I am not contented with what security agencies are doing to only one side, opposition. If the MK movement is praised and allowed to address people everywhere and anytime, we haven't seen them being detained. This is not just unfair according to the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda. And is there any validation of the report given on allegations of their arrest?" Now here is where I'm thinking. One is it is a political movement. We have not known for sure. It has not been put out there that the MK movement is a political movement. They have not said that. And this is not even defense, but on paper, they haven't. So we cannot say that the opposition is being put in one corner and the other is not. You get. Anyway,
Right,
thank
in a
you.
way.
Yeah?
He's right in a way when he says that when you look at the MK movement,
I would say
times
when
we do not have
NRM
the arrests.
activities.
Or even why he used the MK movement is because we've seen the rallies going on, or what you call country tours.
Are they political rallies?
I think they term them as country tours that they're actually doing. So when you look at the country tours that are going on, there are no arrests. But when you look at the opposition tours going on, there are arrests. So that is why I think he's trying to ask why is there some double standards in how the security agencies handle the two scenarios.
Have you had scenarios where you've seen rowdy cases or rowdy situations with the movement? Now, I'm trying to try and justify why we are seeing security agencies, incline themselves. I mean, in 2020, they would say, where you see red or where there's NUP, run for your life. You had that in 2020 and 2021. So yeah, that's why I'm trying to see how we draw the line on that one.
Well, thank you so much for being a part of this conversation. And Kwizera said what government should do is just ignore the games of the opposition because they will do what they want to do. And yes, we have so many views of yours coming through. Continue the conversation online on the X app. The hashtag is UBCGMU. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Pick of the day on UBC. Was brought to you by
MTN Momo Pay is the easy way to pay. Dial *165*3# or use the MTN Momo app. You don't need cash. MTN Momo Pay is safe and free.
Junko.
Yo.
Wachiko. Check the shopping, man. What's your secret?
Uganda, haven't you heard of the parish development model PDM?
Yes, I did, but I thought it was just a talk.
No, Sebatia. It is real. I and a few friends together formed a circle, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a portrait project, and now things are moving.
Junko. I thought I was one of your friends.
You are.
But you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. What you do, just visit your LC2 chairperson and your parish chief and start the process of economic transformation. Just like that. The parish development model is an initiative from the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Local Government designed to transform all lives of Ugandans for the better. PDM, my parish, my development, my life.
So, you are ready to invest in Airtel's initial public offering? Good choice. I'm going to show you how to do it straight from your phone. First, you're going to want to make sure you have a Securities Central Depository SCD account. Dial *185*85# from your Airtel number. Choose Airtel IPO purchase from the available options. Enter your valid national identification number when prompted. Before you purchase, there are a few things you need to know. The minimum purchase is 2,500 shares. The share price is 100 Uganda shillings. Select the number of shares you wish to purchase. Choose your relevant broker for the purchase. Enter your Airtel Money PIN to confirm the transaction. Congratulations! You receive a confirmation message of your successful purchase.
This plan, as the name prescribes, is the project for restoration of livelihood in northern region. So it was designed to support the population in order to implement the national programs of wealth creation, improving household income, and this is done through supporting agriculture. And by supporting agriculture, you support seed production, training of farmers, mindset change, and if it went ahead to have components of food security grants, whereby families were given grants to be able to improve their food security. But there was also community-based natural resources grants, which were given to families to put in place woodlots, which would help them to reduce on killing the vegetation and deforestation, looking for energy or for firewood.
Hello there, welcome along to GMU Business today morning, as it's a fruitful Thursday, the 12th of October 2023, and it's time for us to check out what is making headlines across the world of business within the country. A lot, trust me. This week did start on a very huge note, I should call it, or a very high note. That's to say, the Uganda United Arab Emirates Forum. On day 2, President Museveni, while meeting some of the investors, did reiterate the importance of strategic and reliable partnerships that will definitely lead to massive development projects for both countries. That is, if the partnerships are enhanced and collaboration is promoted between Uganda and the United Arab Emirates. But besides that, he did believe that with the international contacts that the country can establish through such forums, especially contacts with the United Arab Emirates investors, this is an ingredient for economic success. So according to President Museveni, he believes that Ugandans are positioning themselves well and ably, strategic rather, it would be the better way for our businesses to grow and our investors to start getting huge amounts of money from their goods that are ready for exports. Now, the president encouraged businesses to explore Uganda's vast opportunities, that is for the UAE investors, as well as putting some clarity that having a local partner is not a mandatory requirement for any business in Uganda. So it's also better for the local businesses to start having some of those partnerships with foreign investors. That way business will grow and cross-border trade will as well prevail and tremendously grow for Uganda. So the president also invited investors to Uganda and said that this is like opening a door for endless opportunities, because it not only boosts economic growth, it also creates jobs for the many Ugandans that are jobless or are unemployed, and it also drives innovation as a country, because the moves definitely start moving out when you look at it. Now, President Museveni also said that government will continue investing massively on public goods with the goal of lowering the cost of doing business, and he also further said that this serves as a pivotal platform for trade. This particular forum serves as a pivotal platform for trade, investment and cultural exchange between Uganda and the United Arab Emirates. We do have quite a number of goods that come from the United Arab Emirates. We have Ugandans who go out there to make their purchase of goods or stock from the United Arab Emirates. You've heard of all those cases, or you've heard of those scenarios where Ugandans travel to Dubai to make some good money or to travel and buy some commodities. There are also those who export goods to Dubai, and we do have quite a number of Ugandans who are doing or driving business from those ends of Dubai or the United Arab Emirates. Now, away from that particular report, we turn our focus to Gulu City, as Gulu City is seeking to mobilize 3.7 billion Ugandan shillings. This is from property tax alone, the 3.7 billion Ugandan shillings. So the authorities are saying that at least 3.7 billion Ugandan shillings from property rates in the 2023-2024 financial year should be a target they are looking at meeting. The projection is part of Gulu City's broader plan that they are looking at to boost its revenue capacity and work towards becoming a self-financing city under the domestic revenue mobilization for development strategy. Now, George Chidega, who is the Gulu City finance manager, said that the money will be mobilized from about 3,200 properties in Gulu, which a recent mapping concluded they have a commercial element. 3,200 properties in Gulu that will definitely be used to tap into the commercial part of it. And according to the finance manager, they believe that if they achieve 100% of compliance from the property managers, then they will definitely hit their target. And I do remind you that the target is 3.7 billion shillings that would be from the property tax that is in Gulu City. Now, lastly, with our business update this morning, our focus stands on the forex market. Close of business Tuesday. What was in the forex there? The US dollar was buying at 3,725.92. That is closing time, while selling at 3,755.92. Now, the Great Britain pound was buying at 4,602, beg your pardon, 0.23, while selling at 4,614.52. Meanwhile, the euro was buying at 3,971.04, while selling at 3,981.65. The Kenyan shilling was buying at 25.15, while selling at 25.22 shillings. And then the Tanzanian shilling was buying at 1.49 shillings, while selling at 1.49 Ugandan shillings as well. The South African rand was buying at 196.53 shillings, while selling at 197.05 Ugandan shillings. So that is still when it comes to the forex market. So if you're going out there to trade or exchange some currencies, that is what we do have from that information. Now we do a revisit of the press review from our local dailies in Uganda. We start off with the New Vision with the headline, Landlords Want Tax on Rent Reduced. And this is the property owners call for sensitization on tax compliance. Then the Girl Child Day, you can read more about the same. Furthermore, land conflict, row escalates over access road in Muyenga. How is that? You can still read more about the same. Now in the international news, Gaza war, what we know so far. The New Vision is giving you more details of the same. As President Museveni was the United Arab Emirates investors. Read more about President Museveni and the United Arab Emirates investors during day 2 of the Uganda United Arab Emirates Forum. Now the Daily Monitor with the headline, Local Council 1 and 2 elections. Local Council 1 and 2 elections are taking shape. Read more about the same and when they will be happening. How prepared is the Electoral Commission for that? Then in the other news, why Entebbe school turned classrooms into goat shelter. Which school is that? Daily Monitor. Now, cybersecurity tops mid-sized companies' conversations, according to the Daily Monitor report here. Then furthermore, corruption. Nakalema reveals that red tape frustrating investors within the country. Then Ask the Mechanic expert answers your car questions. As in the other news, Rwenzururu Kingdom to turn palace bombed to ruins in 2016 into a museum. That is in a way to boost tourism in the region of the Rwenzururu. Now the Daily Nation in Kenya, we're now crossing the borders away from Uganda. How Palestine-Israel war has divided Africa. The crossroads, the African Union in its statement seemed to lay the blame on Tel Aviv. Read more of that in the Daily Nation. Now Capet threatens to boycott exams over payroll with Kenec. Read more of the same. King Charles and Queen Camilla set for Kenya trip. How about that? How prepared is Kenya for that particular trip? Read more of the same with the Daily Nation. Now, crossing over to the southern part of the East African community, the Citizen in Tanzania. Why Central Zone is a magnet for bank loans. The Citizen gives you more of the same. Government unveils incentives to boost cashew production. Citizen newspaper. Now, Minister castigates inept human resource managers as the CRDB Bank showcases empowerment agenda at World Bank IMF meetings. Then there's an interesting story. $129 million shipbuilding investment in Kigoma set to boost trade in Tanzania. That's it for the business this morning, as well as the press review. And at this particular time, we check out the traffic updates.
Well, good morning once again. It's been a bit warmer than it was yesterday because we had a chilly morning in some parts of Kampala. So if you didn't get the rains, I believe later on in the day you did get them. And of course, traffic was crumpled for some hours in the evening hours of yesterday due to the rains. People coming in from areas of Chureka didn't found it tough, going home. But this morning we are going to the side of Bukasa Road. We are going to the side of Namuwongo and Chisugu. And if you look at your screen right now, you will see that from the areas of Bukasa Road, there is a smooth flow of traffic. And as we continue ahead, looking at two roads, as you can see there, we have those two roads. One is Chisugu Road and the other is Namuwongo Road. Now, when we look at both of these roads, at the moment, there is a smooth flow of traffic. Where Bukasa Road joins Chisugu Road onto Namuwongo Road, there is a bit of a slow movement over there, but other areas look pretty good. Now, continuing with Namuwongo Road, there is smooth flow of traffic, but in the back end, the feeder roads that feed into Chisugu Road seem to be having a little bit of traffic jam that is coming through. But going ahead back to Namuwongo Road, you can see those green lines. They're indicative of a smooth flow of traffic. So if you're coming from that side of town, you are in luck. The road is quite clear. Now, moving on to where Namuwongo Road joins Go Down Road, there is some bit of slow movement over there. As you can see, the orange lines indicate that traffic is starting to build along that area. So let's have a look at Go Down Road and see how it's going. There is a slow movement, so you will not be able to step on your pedals and drive fast. But at least the good news is you won't be in the same space for quite too long. Now, looking at Go Down Road joining 5th Street, there is a red zone which indicates that traffic has built up here, and you may have to go extremely slow because the traffic flow in this area is very slow. And of course, moving still ahead on 5th Street, most of the sections of that part have traffic jam, but it is the kind where you will be able to move, though not at fast speed. Now, looking at where Chibira Road joins 5th Street, Chibira Road looks okay. So if that's the area you're going to, or if that's the route you're using, you should be able to move in record time. 5th Street ahead actually is now smooth. So if you're moving and you're trying to join Spring Road, then you will be in good hands, because around Spring Road there is a smooth flow of traffic, a little bit of a hold up in some sections, but overall it doesn't look bad. I don't see any red zones over here, though there are some orange zones which indicate that there is slow movement, but I would rather an orange zone than a red zone, because red zones indicate huge traffic. Now, looking at Spring Road where it joins Luthuri Avenue, there is a bit of traffic there as you head to Luthuri Avenue, but it's not so much. Actually, just a few sections of Luthuri Avenue have a bit of traffic buildup, but overall there is a smooth flow of traffic. Now going ahead and looking at Murana Road joining Luthuri Avenue. Murana Road is actually very clear this morning, same as Chibira Road. So if that's the area, if you're moving into the areas of Bugolobi, you should be able to move at record time as fast as possible. Please note that even when the road is smooth, you should always drive in a sensible manner and care about other road users, because we are together as a country trying to fight road carnage in different parts of the country. Now, as Luthuri Avenue joins the main Luthuri Road, sorry, there is a bit of traffic there coming in from Luthuri Lane, and but still it's not too much, so you should be able to move smoothly. So if you are moving to the areas of Bugolobi, looks like most of the roads in that environment are actually very clear. You should be able to move, because even the traffic that is usually on 5th Street this morning, it is not there. And so you should be able to move in record time without any encumbrances this morning. Well, that's it for our traffic updates. My name is Olive Monica Najuma. Up next is Robert Chiraba with the agenda. Ruben Impuma will be coming in with sports updates.
Pick of the day on UBC. Was brought to you by
MTN Momo Pay is the easy way to pay. Dial *165*3# or use the MTN Momo app. You don't need cash. MTN Momo Pay is safe and free.
Mukoke Fish Farmers Association tuli balunzi ba byananda ebyebika ebisatu omuli Miracap, tilapia oba engege ni catfish twete male. Group eno twatandika twali abantu basatu nga tulingirira obwetaavu obwebyenanda obwibwa eno okubona nti tufuna okasente akava mu maadi agali gatambula butambule nga gatubita ku wanu ng'ekirabo. Twatandika ni fish pond ndala mu mwaka gw'e2018. Twebaza fisheries officer ni district ya Bugiri babanga batulagirira kusani fish farm ebwikwe ni side day ndeyo twabanga tusobola okufuna twetusako obugege obwasooka era mu mwaka ogwali 2022 awo basobola okubanga batuwaayo ebyenanda emitwalo dali ena okuva mu operation werese creation era okuba yongereza ku emere yatuweebwa okuva Uganda Poultry Breeders. Twasobola okubanga tusoloza akasente akawerera obukayire nga 42. Twasobola okubanga tubuinvestinga oba okubona nti twongerezaako ku bimu ku bintu bye tukola gano. Bebaza gavumenti yaife okubanga buli saawa efaayo okubanga efeeri y'abana Uganda.
So this is my general perception. One, that this project entered in strategic areas of government, but that it has created a base for the now last mile strategy, which is the parcel development model. And therefore this base that it has left will help us actually, and I'm sure we'll get better results in a Chore area and Ajumani when we are implementing the parcel development model.
seen a number of community members out there that have formed themselves into groups and have identified enterprises, agricultural enterprises, rice and all that, and they've actually been successfully cultivating them. They've gone ahead, the project has gone ahead and also introduced small-scale industries like the rice huller, the grinding mills and all that that are managed by the groups. All these are successes.
UBC is the national public broadcaster. We educate, inform, entertain, and inspire our audiences. You can watch us on free-to-air channel 001, DSTV channel 282, GoTV channel 371, Star Times channel 201, Zuku TV channel 20, and Azam TV channel 350. Even when your subscription expires, you can still watch UBC for free on your pay TV platforms.
We are running the program of parish development model. That is a model, a strategy that is supposed to enhance wealth creation by engaging 39% of the population that is not into the money economy. So far as a district, we have 56 parish development circles and they have accessed funds. Last year we received about 560 million shillings, of which we have disbursed that money to them. And each beneficiary receives a maximum of 1 million shillings. Those PDM circles are into 56 parishes across the district, and so far we have no complaint about the disbursements and the receiving of the funds, which I think is a very positive note, because people have been talking about funds not being received elsewhere. But for Bushenyi, all those who have applied for the funds have received it, especially the revolving fund.
Yo!
Welcome back. This is Good Morning Uganda. I'm still Olive Monica Najuma, and this time I am with Robert Chirabo Nyonyintono and Chantal Olive Akandinda. Now, yesterday was the International Girl Child Day, and if you're a girl child like me and of course Olive Akandinda, you know that we have our own set of challenges that we deal with as women, and sometimes men or the other gender may not really understand or come to terms with the things that we grapple with as girls. For instance, do you know that in this day and age, we still have people that do not believe that girl children should actually own property? Of course, we even had an incident a few years ago where a former minister died and he had left his daughter to be his heir, and his family could not have any of that. Now, someone may say that that was rooted in culture. A girl child cannot be an heir to her father, but still there is a whole conversation around there, because away from culture, we still have people who believe that certain jobs should not be done by women. Now, I agree that men and women are different, and our energy levels are different also. But how about where we can actually own things? How about where we can actually join hands with the men and build a nation, build our families? That's the conversation we're having today, and we'd like for you to join us through WhatsApp number 0709 602592 and share your views on the stereotypes when it comes to girl children owning property. Mr. Chirabo, welcome back.
Well, thank you so much. This is a very interesting topic, I must say, more so as an African man.
Okay.
You know, as a man who is deeply rooted in culture, but also modern. Now, such is a very sensitive discussion. And when we saw the Minister of State for Youth and Children Affairs, Sarah Mateke, coming up and decrying the harmful cultural norms and stereotypes in the country that deprive the girls' right to property. In this day and age, I find that very, very important. Because some of these stereotypes, even they contravene our constitution. Because when you look at our constitution, Article 271, Cap 1, the constitution gives the right to all people of Uganda to own land. That is one. Then Article 21 prohibits any discrimination and grants the same status to both male and female to own land and property. Now, the book that all Ugandans should abide by is the Constitution.
That's
Before
true.
we go to our various religions and faith, we have the Bible, the Quran, and maybe other books. However, continuously, women, the girl child, has strived to ensure that we appreciate the fact that they can be entitled to own
property.
Began by giving us a very good example. We once had a former prime minister who passed on and said, "My daughter." And this made headlines. This was a talk everywhere. How can a man of such a legacy, how can he? We've had men who have strived, even go to an extent of sleeping outside marriage, looking for boy child.
And you know, that is very funny, because if you remember a little bit of your biology, you know that there is what we call chromosomes, the XX that is held by the woman and the XY that is held by the man. Now, if the X meets the X, that's a girl child. And if the Y, which is held by the man, meets the woman's X, that's a boy. So it is foolhardy for a man to step out of his marriage in the name of looking for a boy child.
And I get confused because even those that we think have gone to school and understand that, still they will tell you, and let's not think
that's where the
just,
culture
it's
comes
just
in.
an excuse. A person will say, with all the property I've made, if someone has been blessed, with all the property I've made, who is going to take over? Someone tell you, who is going to take over my legacy?
Yet they have children, girl children.
Girl children. And they will tell you, for me, I'm worried. And you find that a very big problem. I'm worried. He can even lose weight. I don't have a son. You know, he goes, because he believes the daughters will not be able or will not carry on his legacy and cannot own property.
Now that you said this, and you are a gentleman, a father too, what advice would you give to the men out there that have girl children but disregard them when it comes to taking the family legacy forward? Now, I understand that given our African culture, when it comes to children born by a girl child, those children do not belong to her paternal family. That I understand. But when it comes to, let's say, family business and property, what would you tell the men out there? What should they do, okay, to embrace their children, to, you know, run family businesses and own family property, run family property?
First, for a man watching us this morning, and God has blessed you with daughters, you've not received a son. First, understand these are gifts from the Lord. Because there's even someone who has done everything to get a child and they have 0. And God has a reason why he has given you daughters. Because it could be that you yearn for a son who make you meet your creator. You know? Yes, you can yearn and say, and then that son, because I've ever heard of a family where even the man went to get a son, you know, even went in funny cultural things, and what he got was a problem.
Even in the Bible, we have stories of sons that have tried to kill their fathers, others have killed their fathers.
God may say, Robert, you will not be able to handle a son. Let me give you daughters. So, first appreciate that. Then second, raise them to be who you want them to be in the future. Don't have this disguise. I remember someone told me, the ladies we talk about today, the Jennifer Musisi, the Aren Kajinas, Anjuko, this one in UNRWA, you know, the IGG, the deputy IGG. In their times, they had families who never educated their daughters.
Yes.
And not because they didn't have money, but they had that stereotype. A girl will let you down, a girl will disappoint you. But their families knew that let's educate these girls. Today, these ladies have held this nation, the likes of Honorable Rebecca Kadaga. They have held this nation and at continental level and international level. So, you have the role to shape this girl. I grew up with one sister, but our family decided that she's a boy. We didn't have these issues of, and if you look at her character, because it was a choice her parents made, she's faced the world like
a boy.
A boy.
So she thinks like a man.
She thinks like a man.
But acts like a lady.
But acts like a lady. And even if you're to tell her that you're the heir, she can 100% take over that role and place herself in that.
Now, I would like to go to Chantal. When Robert mentions his sister that was raised to think like a man, of course, and act like a lady, there is this whole argument around gender and responsibilities and what we can and what we cannot do depending on our genders. The first question to you is, can a woman do, can a girl child do what a boy child can?
That question is really broad, and if I said yes, I would be wrong. If I said no, I would be wrong.
Break it down.
What do I mean? Different aspects, a woman can do what a man can do, and different aspects, a woman cannot do what a man can do. So in this case, if we are talking about inheritance, the truth is
right to property,
and inheritance. Yes. And when you talk about, especially right to property and inheritance, when you talk about that, it takes me back down to the reasons as to why women were not allowed, or girls were not allowed to become heiresses to their parents. Do you know why? Because women were being dominated back then. Women were being taken as
property.
How do I do? No, maybe not property, but a species. Is it a species? But a gender that is one inferior, that is to be ruled, that is to be thought for. You get it? Back then, even the man would tell you, "Unzalo, what is the family?" You get it? But lately, we have seen that women can sit with their men on the same table, plan together, have the boundaries, of course, but plan together and work through together. Over time, we have also seen that if you are to put a man and a woman here and a line of those, you will find out that some women are brighter than some men. So back then, women were underestimated. Women were being put in places that could not bring out their potential. And that was the reason as to why a woman or a girl would be looked at as, okay, yes, she's born, she's precious, she's fragile, she's beautiful, you know, she's the family flower and everything. But just like she's taken as a flower, she's not believed that she can do anything or be anything of value to the family. But we have seen women that have inherited from their fathers, and they have done a wonderful job at keeping peace in the family. Now, when you're talking about inheritance and an heir, you're not looking at someone who is taking everything. Now, that's the part that was confused with women inheriting, because they would say, when she inherits, ajabitwala to the husband's side. You understand? Yet her role at that point as an heir is to oversee, not to take. That is why when you go down to break all this down, you realize that those who are organized enough will leave a will that says, this is the heir. Meaning
to
they
advance
have been,
culture.
yes, they have been given the capacity of the father or the leader of that family, but the leader of the family, and in good leadership, you do not what is it called? You not dictate. You sit as a family, as a leader, and you are a unifying factor. You make sure that every person in the family is comfortable. You make sure the family is organized. You make sure that you avoid the wrangles that could erupt. You make sure that you preserve the legacy. Now, preserving the legacy may not be the kids you bring forth, but making sure that if it's a culture or something known by a particular family, if it's business, it's been conserved. If it's a certain type of culture, it's been conserved. That is the role of an heir or an heiress. The unfortunate bit was it was misunderstood in the beginning. That is where we saw women being put aside, because when you get married, you take on your man's religion. You even have to, you take the name. You even have to, at some point, take the language if you're not from the same region or same tribe, something like that. So literally you have moved from one family to another. But the truth is, my roots are still there. I bear my father's name, I bear his blood, and by all standards, if my dad put me in such a place, I would have to know that I'm representing my dad when it comes to my family. That is my siblings and my mother and everyone else. Then when it comes to my own family, my man takes precedent.
That is easy to say.
Modernity now coming into this thing.
But again,
the biggest challenge is
that is Robert, just that is easy to say, and that I will be able to separate the affairs of my marriage and the affairs of the family where I come from. But culture is not stupid also. There was a reason why our forefathers decided that a girl child may not be the heir of her father, because the minute, like you said, she gets married, she now belongs to another family. By blood and roots, yes, I am Najuma, I am of Lugave family, but by marriage, I am now maybe Mrs. Chirabo. So now I go with Nyonyintono. You get? That is my new family. And so I would like us to look back. Where do we draw the line of like real marking boundaries of this is family, this is modernity, this is culture, and we have to combine all of that together to ensure that the girl child has a right to property.
And you've asked a very good you've brought in something very important, because also this puzzled me when I saw the Minister of State saying that Minister of State for Youth and Children saying that government is coming up with the measures to ensure that this stereotype of women or the girl child not owning property is something they can fight. Now, modernity, like you said, has redefined certain
culture
things
to a degree,
as we had them in culture. For example, today being a heir has changed to what it was previously.
Yeah.
We must agree, fellow Ugandans, in all cultures. Previously, if you're the heir of your father, for example, if I took over my father and I'm the heir, so it would entirely mean I'm now him in his absence.
Yes.
A land, everything he owned now would belong to me. That is in our tradition, or Musika. You become a king immediately. You're the father. But with the modernity and what we've seen the world evolving and different challenges, now being a heir no longer means that actually you're a replacement of the deceased. Today they will even, you'll have that this is the cultural hair of our father.
But this is the actual heir
But
in terms of running
yes,
business
in terms
and
of
managing
running
family
business.
property.
I want to give you a very successful family, I want to say, that I've observed, the Murana family. When the late, in my faith we'll have to say, went to be with our Lord, his daughter took over the legacy in terms of business.
Yes.
That even today, I think she was even the head of the Uganda Manufacturers Association, tremendously, a very aggressive, focused young woman. Not that he didn't have the boys, I don't want to go to that story, but I want to look at the success element of it. Now, modernity has redefined some of these things, that they are no longer what they used to. For example, previously, if I married Najuma or I married you, a woman would be your property. You know, even you had the right to beat, and it was normal. You had the right to say not going at your place, at your parents' place. You had all this culture today. We've had some bit of, even our cultural leaders, some of the functions they used to perform when installing them in their installation.
Heir. Yes.
No, the kings.
The king.
They looked out, they tried to remove some that are inhuman.
Yes.
In Uganda, I had a very interesting story of a young girl called Naku. You know, those cannot happen in modern day. So we must, first of all, the African men, society must understand that there are certain things that have moved away because we've tested their bitterness, and we can't continue with them. We can't continue saying that a woman has no right to make a decision on land. You know,
especially given that Ugandan women and girls make up the majority of the agricultural labor force. So their contribution to economic development of the country cannot be denied. When you go to, because now we speak and probably the conversation is centered around a certain class of people, maybe people that have gone to school, people that are in the world of business. But let's go back to communities that are not even middle class or elites. You're going to find that women and girl children are the ones tilling the land, are the ones growing the crops, are the ones you know, doing the harvesting and everything that happens. But yet at the end of the day, after they have harvested and now the crops go to the market, the money doesn't come back to them. Okay? And when the money, or you say this money comes back and maybe properties bought, they are not remembered. This is what the minister was trying to say. If they have the ability to do all this stuff, why are they still being denied the right to own property?
And I think we've refused to tackle this discussion the hard way. Forgive me and don't feel offended, our viewers. Two institutions are still keeping this stereotype. We have the hard institution to talk about, which is culture, culture institutions, and the other, which is religion. These two, and I love it when the minister said you are going to speak to traditional or cultural leaders to change perspective. We're going to speak to religious leaders to change perspective, because in their arena they have changed perspective. Like I earlier told you, that the cultural leaders have evolved and have now moved with the times. The religious leaders, I want to give you an example. In Uganda, which I've grown up and seen, there was a time when you can't see the head of the Anglican Church, the head of the Catholic faith, sit together and have a body that unifies them, and the leadership is rotational. I'm not talking about the interreligious council. Now that cannot be. There was a time when you can't say that a mufti has been invited to Namirembe Cathedral, stepping on that soil, or for them they have evolved. There's a time when you couldn't expect what you call the charismatic, dancing, Catholic on the pulpit. In the Anglican Church, this could not happen. But they have been able to adjust and change with the times.
But when it comes to matters of women,
why can't we adjust? Why can't we understand that we can have a cultural person? Because one will tell you, for us Abaganda, how can a woman preside over installation of her hair? But we can have someone Who can do the Kusumika issue?
No, Robert, I would like for us to still go, going still back to culture. I, as a woman, I understand that we need our rights to you know, property, owning property, and you know, many things like that. But we also risk. Actually, let me rephrase. Don't we risk losing who we really are if we want to change the fabric of what makes us us? What do I mean? Chantal is burning, so I will throw this to I'll throw this to her. But what I'm trying to say is, okay, women should have certain rights, all right? Women should get the basic rights that boys have. Is it owning property? They should have. But Chantal, do you agree that we should also go as far as changing some of the norms that we've had since time immemorial that were meant to be done by men, like you mentioned, Okusumika, and because we now want this equality, take that away and give it to women too? Shouldn't we have boundaries when it comes to things like that?
I'm actually not looking at it from the angle of changing norms. I am looking at it from the angle of what has led us to even having this conversation. Back then, this conversation would not be there.
Yes.
Of should we get a girl as an heir? No. It kept on evolving. And do you know why? Because of the challenges that were faced. Please do not, I remind you, that the reasons as to why women were looked at as a certain, you know,
weaker
type of
sex
and all these things were because of the precedent that was there, because of the mindset that we had. The truth is, at one point, they never believed that a woman was bright. Not at all. Her opinion never mattered at all.
Yes, to be seen.
Your role is to cook, avail yourself for conjugal rights, give kids, and make sure the house is in order. Make sure the house is in order. But we have seen over time, women have evolved. Women have shown that, listen, these things can be done. Women have shown that they could be more organized in some areas more than the men. And this is not to change any norm. This is nature that has literally shown us that change is inevitable. I am not saying we should change these things, but I'm imagining a man who has only girls, what should he do? A man who has only girls, what should he do?
And you know what happens? A man who has only girls, a brother who has sons, sons come.
Thank you.
And then they take over. I've sweated. I wake up every morning to come and work for my daughters. Then because I've not had daughters, my brother who has had sons raised them the way he chooses. Either they are drunkards. Now I've died. I don't. So they come. Inherit, then begin messing, selling my property, because my
what do you say should be done? Because the culture is going to remain. And personally, if you ask me, should culture be sustained? Yes, because other cultures out there are being sustained. If you go to the Indian community, they are still holding true to their culture and their norms. Even when you find fifth generation Indians, let's say in Uganda or in the United States, there are things they're going to still hold dear as pertains their culture. So my question goes back to you. You said when we have, like in the Chiganda culture, if you had daughters only and your brother has a son, shouldn't we uphold the notion of your brother's son being the cultural heir, but then draw a line on what he has access to as regards your property?
Before anything, my question is, what is the role of these norms, and when you weigh the advantage and the disadvantage of these things, what good is it?
Because it is what makes us who we are.
No.
Because if we did not have the norms, honestly, Chantal, would we be the people we are proudly if we didn't have any sort of...
Allow me finish my question.
Okay.
I'm thinking about it from the angle of, let's assess the importance of these norms and these let me call them guidelines that we are following. And why am I saying let's assess? Are they doing more harm than good? Are they allowing us to evolve? What are they contributing to our lives? You know, Robert, you said something. You said your brother's kids come and inherit your things. Ideally, they are supposed to look after, even your brother actually, if your brother takes over from you, he is supposed to look after your family and do it the way you should be doing it. But over the years, centuries to say, we have seen things happen in the sense that when your brother takes over, everything goes to his family and your kids are left like orphans and they suffer. You get it? So this is why I'm asking, when you assess the role and the importance of these norms, are they doing us more harm than good, or the vice versa? If we can have that conversation and we realize that we are achieving good results, because at the end of the day, all we are looking at is harmony. All we are looking at is raising kids in a proper family and in a proper way. We are looking at fairness. We are looking at kids getting what they rightfully deserve. If these norms are not giving us that, they're as good as dead, because they're not fulfilling the initial mandate of what they were put in place for.
Okay, no. I have a few views coming through, and this one says, good morning, Uganda. Whether male or female, every child has the right to inherit property. It's high time we stop this primitive thinking that girls cannot own property. Today, more and more ladies are doing far better than men in many aspects. I suggest stringent measures to curb marginalizing the female gender. Enough is enough. And this is Chandinga Ratib from Kampala. And this one says, good morning. Educating a girl child is educating humanity. When the girl child is not educated, we are carrying humanity into the wrong direction. In a nutshell, an uneducated woman will mean the children will not be educated. And Obed from Kakobambara says, genders, property ownership and inheritance according to the African setting was based on marriage norms. They thought a man will have to marry and take responsibility of the family, including bride price and all it needs. We all understand that we can do the same, but that aspect of marriage and responsibility discourages the whole thing, as in gender equality. I think he's trying to say, when you say, if you give the girl child all this property and then she gets into a marriage, I think that's where it gets blurred.
It goes to the man, and second, the man, why they wanted the boy child, because at one time he should have had what to give. So it was the priority. He's going to start a shelter, then he's going to have a soft landing by then.
And Regan from Ginger says things should be changed, because nowadays you find girls that think and plan like boys. And another one said the X chromosome thinks. He says, Powell Marvin from Bale says, in my opinion, in today's generation, an XX chromosome, that is the girl child, understands family challenges that an XY chromosome than an XY chromosome. I like the way you played with words there. Thank you so much. And this one says, an independent state refers to people politically organized into a sovereign state with a defined territory. I think he goes back to the Constitution, which says, you know, everyone has a right to property as long as you are a citizen. Now that, okay, I see where your argument is coming from. Girl children have a right to own property. So how best can the government, ensure that girl children are not marginalized when it comes to property ownership?
First, empower the girl child with education. Because education, there is a way it brightens and changes someone's thinking. I just imagine if the two beautiful ladies I have on set here were not educated, they would have challenges. Now, two, after empowering the girl child with education, sensitization. There must be, when we had the HIV scourge in this country, around 1986 and the early 90s, government deliberately carried out sensitization on HIV/AIDS. Some of us grew up hearing the ABC, was it ABCD, ABC, abstain, I don't remember so much about, but ABC, something like that. Everywhere there's so much put into that. We need deliberately to look at this angle on the religious platform. We need on the cultural platform and say, let's wake up. Then finally the law. Yes, we have the law, but how many times have we stood on what our law says? When a family says, for us we have refused, Uganda, and you can wonder, illiterate, funny old men who are not exposed, and then you take their views. But look at these people, you know, and even there the law should come out and say no. The Constitution says no discrimination. The Constitution says there is a right to this, and you're breaking the law, and this is punishable. But there is a way when a religious leader speaks, or when a cultural leader speaks, there is a way that even our Constitution is marginalized. The family, I don't know other, the clan chief, the law must be seen to work. So when the girl is empowered with education, they will be able, because these are deterring. Some women even fear to work, fear to have. That's why you find that a woman is married and she has hidden apartments. The man doesn't know. These are visible in families. She buys land. She can't tell the man. She does so much hiding. Why? Because she's like, now if maybe this guy passes on, all these hair from somewhere, I don't have girls, will come and take. So they rather not know. It is affecting us economically.
Okay, now going back to the parents, Chantal, how best can parents, what advice would you give to parents that have girl children and are still stuck with the mindset that a girl child cannot own property?
We may not have like many ways of helping these people because at the end of the day, if you are failing to move with the changes that are unfolding in our eyes, then you have a problem. So as a parent, you have to endeavor to be more open-minded and be more flexible. And Robert was talking about empowering the girl child, but let's empower the boy child as well. Do you know why? Because the boys are the ones that are going to be fighting with the girls. Because the man is the one who is going to be distributing this wealth. In most cases, is he going to give the girl? Maybe not, but if he is empowered as well, he'll make a better decision. So we are empowering both the male and the female, but we all do know that the biggest number of the decisions are made by the male. So he needs to be in position, one, to be flexible, two, to listen as well. So parents should be able to listen and be more flexible.
Okay, so we have more views coming through, and Basajja Balaba Mugera from Sese Island says, thank you GMU for the topical discussion of a girl child's rights. And he says, with all due respect, women or the female sex has been respected and dearly recognized, only that some people overrate or over-assume a woman's position in the name of gender balance. Article 37 of the Constitution says, what? Right to culture and similar rights. How does culture position women? From the religious perspective, what does the Bible and Quran talk about women's rights? Not forgetting Uganda's motto, for God and my country. Let's just give time to understand Article 40 of the Constitution. It's just enough to cater for our women, but don't tamper with culture and religion. We love our women and they should be proud of who they are. No doubt of their contribution to society, but we shouldn't risk them forgetting their divine calling and position of women. Omukazi avera mukazi. What this means, I don't really understand, because it gives me connotations of submission, submit, obey.
And the element of culture that really...
Yes, but in the first place, this is the question I asked. In the first place, these cultural norms were put in place place as guidelines for us to behave in society, for us to achieve harmony,
Please remember
to achieve
that
unity.
the culture norms and guidelines were put in place by men because society was highly patriarchal. So maybe the other question we need to ask, were these norms put in place to favor men or to favor women?
Okay. To guide,
but I still have a few views coming through, and I will end with Chantal's note. There is nothing we should change about culture, just change the way people behave. The conduct of individuals should not abuse our culture. Leave foreigners alone and be who we are as Africans. Those days the child belonged to the family or community and brothers used to mix, so you wouldn't know who is who when it comes to your brothers. Okay, now Chantal, let's end with what you had to say in 30 seconds.
Thank you very much, Olive. Robert has asked something very, very interesting. Why do we have certain norms not happening now, yet they were happening back then? Let's not be too fast. Listen, the reason as to why these culture norms were put in place, it was for harmony, for peace, for growth, and all these things. But if they are no longer achieving
female genital mutilation, you are arrested.
If they're no longer achieving those very, the unity that was put in place, the togetherness, the growth, if they're not achieving that, then it doesn't hurt for us to make adjustments that are going to enable us achieve. When you stay with the rigid mindset, you people are going to stay in those mental places.
Certainly a sensitive chord has been touched.
We no longer inherit. We no longer have
this conversation is going to continue offline because a sensitive chord has been touched. But thank you so much for being a part of Good Morning Uganda and the Good Morning Uganda agenda. My name is Olive Monica Najima, and I have been with Chantal Olive Candid, and she was removing weapons, and of course Robert Chirabo Nyanyintana.
Junko. Yo. Check the shopping, man. What's your secret?
Uganda, haven't you heard of the parish development model PDM?
Yes, I did, but I thought it was just a talk.
No, Sebatia. It is real. I and a few friends together formed a circle, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a